My agent will be in touch with you around specifics. Linda, I would have worn a jacket. No, I'm kidding. All right. So we've been around the NGO for about 15 years. And there are people here in this room, and I'm looking at Steve Bodek especially, who knows the history even better than I do. So if at any time any of you, brothers or lay alike, that, you know, chime in at any time with a correction or, you know, additional information. And that goes for any and all of you at any time if you have any questions. I'm from Jersey originally. I tend to talk fast. Working with Jack Ventura for 6 years now, I use my hands a lot. So just stop me at any time. Also, if you need a break. Yes. Yeah. Great. All right. That was easy. So just a little overview for this morning. It's important to put the NGO in the framework of social justice and Catholic social teaching for many reasons, but there is some skepticism for Catholic entities being at the United Nations, and it's not always a clear black and white stance or understanding. There is a permanent observer, the Holy See. The Vatican has a member state there. Some people feel differently about that too, that why do they get a vote on certain things, and why do they have a presence when some other faiths might not in that nature? Like any human organization, there are some politics, and there are also some people who have asked me is, why do we have an NGO there? And ultimately, it's really to create systemic change, hopefully at the global level. We feel it's important to have some voice than no voice there, but I'll get into that more. But the heart of what we do, it's all about social justice and Catholic social teaching and ultimately gospel values. We're there because we feel Jesus and Mary tell us to be there in our modern day. It's a response.
So how many other organizations or orders are represented at the meeting?
About 40. Yep. 42 last time I checked 2 weeks ago. Yep. And I humbly serve as one of 2 lay representatives. There are just 2 of us, myself and the Sister of Loretto representative, and the rest are sisters, brothers, and priests. Yep. So I'll talk to you also about the history and our priorities, and then at any time, thank you, Joanne, perfect example, ask questions at any time, and we'll also allow more time at the end too, if you have any, you know, burning questions left by the end. So, and I have till 4, is that right, Linda? 5, okay, great, perfect. No, right. I don't like to get in between. Yeah. 3 o'clock prayer and happy hour. I love it. Mike, you can edit that out. Yeah, and I don't like to get between anyone and food, so we'll be sure to be done by lunch, right? Or refreshments. So I'm just curious to start this morning. What do you all think of when you think of, or when you hear the term social justice? What's 1 or 2 words or an image or a person? What do you think of when you hear social justice? The poor. Quality. Protest. Fair treatment. Justice for the marginalized. Systemic change. Inclusion. Human dignity. Respect for diversity. Great answers. This is an advanced group. Mike, do you have anything?
No, this is really NGO 501.
Seriously.
Yeah, I think just the social justice issue is, to me, about fairness and equality.
Fairness and equality. Great. Thank you. I did this, we do a Marianist called Advanced Justice program with every community around the province, and we were at our retirement community in Cupertino, and one brother said, 2 words, Brian, I have 2 words for you, communist crap.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it means something different to everyone, and and it's become politicized in some ways, and generationally, you just never know what it means to different people. And ultimately, it's about justice and not just us, right? It calls us to think outside of ourselves. And if you're not aware, about 1.5 billion people on our planet live on less than $1 a day. 1.5 billion live on less than $1 a day. Double that, 3 billion live on less than $2 a day. So that's almost half our world living on less than $750 a year. As we, would all agree, that is just, it's sinful, it's unacceptable, it's incredibly degrading. So that inequality is a big reason why we're at the UN, to hopefully get social protection for all. When I think of social justice, I think of right relationship with ourselves. Are we right with ourselves? Mind, body, spirit. Are we right with others in our community, our families, those we work with? Are we right with creation? Hopefully we're doing our part to be good stewards of the earth and the resources we've been given. And right relationship with God. Hopefully we continue to have an open, loving relationship with God and each other. And really, social justice starts at our baptism. All of us, men and women alike, are baptized priest, prophet, and king. When I first met the Marianists at the University of Dayton, I took a faith and justice course my sophomore year that changed my life. For the first time learning about systemic change and Catholic social teaching. I learned about charity growing up, going to CCD every Wednesday as a public school student until the University of Dayton. Learned about charity and the works of mercy, but that faith and justice course totally changed my life. And really, I felt like, stepped me up to really be more attentive and more active in my faith and to work for justice in the church and also in our world. But the word prophet comes from the Hebrew word navi, which literally means mouthpiece, and we're called to be a voice for those maybe that don't have one, or voices who aren't as amplified. We're not called to speak for others, right? But hopefully to speak for groups that are marginalized and oppressed. Matthew 25 sums it up pretty well. When the disciples asked Jesus, how do we get to heaven? Jesus didn't say, oh, maybe you want to feed the hungry, maybe you want to clothe the naked. No, it wasn't an option, it was a command. And not out of fear or guilt, but just a direct statement and guiding principles for how we are to take care of each other. So a lot of you mentioned equality in terms of justice. And actually, I found this meme on Facebook, of all places. And if you can't see it, it's one wooden crate. Each child is being used to watch the game, but the shortest member can't see the game. So the tallest member gives the shortest member his wooden crate, and then everyone can see the game. So it's not necessarily about a hand out, but about a hand up. Justice is all about giving people a hand up, especially those who are born into situations where they're already poor, marginalized, and really, haven't been born into privilege, so to speak. So, as a lot of brothers say, it's like, oh, Brother Jesse gave Brother Jack his wooden crate. How nice of him. So, yeah. It's true, around the province.
2 plates.
So, what Marianist presentation would be complete without a handout? So Mike, you'll see these on your slides, and I will gladly send them to you. But have a packet for everyone, just so you can see the visuals better. See, it's not like
Oh, yeah.
All right, so this comes from the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, the USCCB. This image, and I love this image, the 2 feet of love and action, also known as the 2 feet of Christian service. The one on the right, we need the charitable works. We need the works of mercy. We need soup kitchens. We need clothing drives. Yeah, we need everything. I'm looking at Linda. We need to provide those services for the homeless. But on the left, we also need to ask, why are people homeless? Why don't people have housing, food, education? And that foot on the left, justice calls us to look at the systems and structures that keep people marginalized and oppressed, right? So we need advocacy. And boy, do we need advocacy. We need to vote. We need to get engaged in different levels. We need to rally with people around us in our local communities, nationally. Those sign-ons, those petitions, you might think, oh, they don't work. You know, we can all, I think, well, I'll speak for myself. I can get cynical with the political process, but they do work. Not all the time, but just to remain active and try not to lose hope. We need both feet to move forward and bring about the kingdom of God here on earth, the reign of God here on earth. Yes, Jess.
We just had a service project to senators and House of Representatives. This is an amazing experience.
Excellent. That's great. And plant those seeds early. Excellent. Wonderful. Love hearing that. We need the both and. So Catholic social teaching, colleagues and I, we refer to this as the holy card for social justice promoters and educators. This also comes from the Bishops' Conference. They use 7 guiding principles. Some people use 9 or 11. They're not wrong. This happens to be 7. But it's a really well, I think, thought out, convenient, attractive card. They're available. You know, if you wanted some, I could order some, or from the Bishops' Conference. They're also available in Spanish. Yeah. Yep, the usccb.org, the Bishops' Conference website. I wonder if it's on the bottom, or just let me know and I can, yeah, either send you some or tell you where to order them. Great. Yeah. So it's great, and it's all of these are so important, from the life and dignity of every person all the way down to creation, and they're all equally important. They're just listed in different ways. Pope Francis, one Marianist brother said, "Wow, Brian, the Pope's really making your job easier, isn't it?" And I said, "You know what? You're right, because his values are really aligned with Catholic social teaching and Marianist values, I think, and other faith-filled values. So yes, where some folks might be skeptical on the environment or whatnot, but with Laudato Si, Pope Francis has really raised a lot of awareness and educated a lot of people, and hopefully will continue to. So that's Catholic social teaching. And again, Chaminade was about all this. He didn't use the term social justice, but he was all about creating a community of communities to change the world. Intentionally having people of different economic status, different gender, men and women alike, rich, poor, going to areas that needed faith, that needed evangelization, and really changing the local community and France, and then look at us now. The Marianist movement continues. This quote comes from, we have a SM, the brothers have a document called Advancing Justice, which helps guide us in our work. We're in the process of revising it right now to update it, to include more of Laudato Si and some other updated province things. But can I get a volunteer, someone to read that?
Advancing justice is at the center of being persons and communities in solidarity with the poor and the marginalized, of being a peacemaker, and of being stewards concerned with the integrity of creation.
Amen. It's great lip service to do it. It's difficult, but it's important. And we, constantly keep this at the center of our work. as well as Jesus, Mary, the Gospels, our charism, everything. But it is a good guiding principle for us. So this comes from Tom Giordino's The Promise and the Path. Chaminade zeroed in on one action that changed the world. The Spirit overshadows Mary to bring forth Christ into the world. He was inspired to see the role of Mary of Nazareth, mother of Jesus, formed and educated Jesus in the Holy Family for his mission of bringing about the reign of God, experienced as human dignity, freedom, justice, solidarity, and reconciliation for all persons. Accordingly, Chaminade focused on the incarnation as a source of spirituality and the apostolic approach for the Marianist family. And this sums up so much of who we are, and to me reminds me of Chaminade's sense of permanent mission that he would express to his contemporaries, but I feel like calls us to as well. Permanent mission, not only do we gather in coffee and treats and lunch and fellowship, but we're also sent. We're sent out to the world to do good work and to make systemic change from wherever we sit, wherever we stand. We need everyone. We need doctors, lawyers, business people, teachers, artists. We need everyone. So how Marianists do social justice, we could be here all day, and I promise we won't be. But again, we look to Mary. Mary's Magnificat. She was loud and proud with her message, in that the rich will be sent away empty and the poor will be lifted up. It's powerful. And the fact that God chose Mary to bear, the Savior of our world, a poor teenage woman, vulnerable herself, it should send us a message, and our world a message that, we can look at it from the world upside down at times. And, Mary's not saying everyone with money should feel guilty or, that's a bad thing. No, we need resources to help improve the lives of others. But if we share, if we distribute, the world can be a more just, equitable place. Chaminade, we talked about, again, I think someone mentioned common good. He was all about promoting the common good, and that's the heart of justice, and that's the heart of our work at the NGO. Father Reavey, if you're not familiar with him, he's very well known internationally, and his introduction to social justice text is used all over the world, and really looking at, we need organizations and structures to make things happen. We can do things on our own or in pairs or small groups, but we really need organizations, institutions, schools, religious orders, businesses to really help make that systemic change. And I'm sure some of you brothers, did you ever know him or meet him? Yeah, I'm sure you have stories. Yeah. Go.
We had a very interesting conversation about the common good we take for granted in the United States. So to promote common good is a revolutionary concept. This sort of simple we should be common good. That is not true. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous what you do.
Yeah.
Sort of like, I noticed during the election season, those kinds of words are not used. Let's work. That was like my prayer, that we elect leaders that would work on the good. And you would hope that it would be one of the principles of our elected leaders, but it's just what Steve said. It's kind of like off the radar screen. So we really have responsibility for moving to common good. Not only as Christians, but as Marians.
Amen. Amen. Now more than ever.
Really.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you. And another prophetic Marianist from Steve Bloved's book. I love this quote, and I use it all the time. All graduates of Marianist schools should leave with a just heart and a sense of right relationships, no matter what professional direction their lives may take. Yeah, and this is so important. And Marianist education is an incredible example of living social justice. And when I first took this job 5 years ago, the brothers were saying, please don't beat us up for what we're not doing. Please don't make us feel guilty. I was like, guys, that's not my approach. I don't think you have to worry about that. But they were very intentional about, we need to remind the province and each other around the good works that are happening in our schools and our Marianist educators, our, middle schools, high schools, universities. And it's so true. Education, parish ministry, it's integral to living, being, and doing social justice. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the See, Judge, Act process. This could be a whole 90-minute workshop in itself, but I gave you these 4 pages. It comes from Australia, and the Australian Catholic Social Justice Council, and I love this document. I actually use this in my own life for personal decisions even. And it's very Chaminade, also known as the Pastoral Circle. And it's a 3-step process. The idea is first to see, to observe, as Chaminade would say, read the signs of the times, or maybe that's language we put on Chaminade's thinking. I'm not sure if he actually said that, but we say it a lot today. And then judge. We need to, not in the critical sense per se, but social analysis and theological reflection. The idea of praying with the Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other. Many Marianist communities I visit, the brothers, they watch the news together and then talk about it and share, again, looking at the signs of the times and how can we help the common good in relationship to what's happening in our world. So I share this with you because we also use this to discern our issues at the NGO, but also you might find it helpful for your own personal or ministerial lives. And I know some community meetings use this. After the Marianist Call to Advance Justice program, we offer this to communities. If they didn't have an issue, they might wanted to get involved in one, but they didn't know where to start. This is a good tool for something like that too. Any questions thus far? Yes, Linda.
This actually comes right out of they use the idea of access, which is like they kind of combine steps 1 and 2. So
Yeah. Yep.
Way back, that used to be called the action, Catholic action.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, Judge Act
Yep.
isn't dead yet.
No. And Brother Ray Fitz, he adds his own step, reflect, at the end. See, judge, act, and then reflect. If we don't reflect on what we did well or not do well, or what can we learn doing it next, that we miss out. So he likes to add reflect. So
in nonviolent communication, they would look at it a little bit differently. They would say see, which is what you said, observe. And then instead of saying judge or analysis or theological reflection, they would say, how do you feel? And then look at what is the need underneath the feeling that is driving that feeling. And then you could probably go into these other things of analysis and theological reflection, but I think until we get to the need underneath it, it's not going to do anything. And then we don't know what to act unless we know what the need is that we're trying to meet, and different strategies are possible to get that need met. So then we would make a request. That's the 4th part. The request, instead of act, make a request. Or how would you move in that direction? So I think this is a little bit, it could be tweaked, I think, to be more effective in terms of nonviolence. Because if you just take it as it is there, it doesn't really get to the need. And the need is what drives us. So I think that we can be enriched by understanding the process of nonviolent communication.
I agree, Stan. And that's something that has come up just last month at our JPIC. We have an advisory board that meets once a year. And we do a lot of programs and ministries around justice and integrative creation. But the piece we feel like we can do a whole lot more with, and that that topic came up. And do you know Emily Aguilar? She's a Cape May. I just met with her on Monday, and she expressed more interest in getting more involved in nonviolent communication. And I mentioned your name as a person to possibly get in touch with. So, yes, yep, she was. So, the Heart of Winter retreat. Yep. Yeah, Sarah.
I just came back.
Yeah.
They said 3 for the United States, but each section was C judge act. Hearing what the problems are, what we small but some of the solutions we take and reflecting actions that we take.
That's great. I'd love to talk to you more about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Could you repeat that?
Thank you.
So Mike was kind of trying to hear.
Mike, did you hear that?
No, I'm having a hard time hearing people that when they're asking questions.
Okay. I'm sorry. I will do my best to repeat.
Okay.
Terry had mentioned she just attended a meeting. What was the title? World Meeting of Popular Movements for the U.S. region under the Vatican. Yeah, and how there were 3 to 5 areas they looked at and used this process in a sense and reflected at the end. And Linda and I both expressed interest in wanting to hear more about that meeting. Yeah, and Jesse just went to get more coffee. Just keeping in the loop.
So, am I allowed?
Yes, please. I don't take offense. I've put people to sleep. I've forced people out of the room. You can turn your chair around. Yeah. Whatever you need to do. So that's C Judge Act. That's the pastoral circle. And again, I encourage you to take more time with that. So here's the world map of our Marianist family. And the latest statistics I've received about 2 weeks ago, but please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, that we have approximately 1,500 Marianist brothers, 400 Marianist sisters, 6,000 lay Marianists, and I'm not sure of the Alliance Mariel, the 4th branch, and forgive me for that. And on any given day in the United States, we are educating 20,000 students at Marianist institutions. On any given day internationally, we are educating 100,000 students at Marianist institutions.
3,000
US, yep. 100,000. Yep. So this ties into the NGO. We do our best to focus on issues affecting different areas that we're involved with as a Marianist family, and also with our educational institutions. But again, it's not just us, right? We're even this family council, we're part of something so much bigger, as we all know, with the Marianist family.
Did you see 15,000 brothers?
No, 1,500.
Oh, sorry, I think that was a lot.
No, that's okay.
1,500, 1,500.
Dream away, Linda, dream away. Yeah, it's a great goal. Right.
You drink it. Like
Their
that.
brothers, sisters,
Mike, Linda's drinking healing elixir, but we're not sure what it is, really.
Yeah. Sounds it.
I'm loving it. Okay.
So one of the ways we participate and engage in global social justice as a Marianist family is with our Marianist International NGO. And our 3 current priorities are the eradication of poverty, the eradication of human trafficking, and the integrity of creation, with a focus on the human right to water. Not that we want another world war, but experts say that if we were to have a third world war, it would most likely be over water, because so many areas of our world are feeling, there are many water distressed areas. There are many corporations that are going in to take advantage of vulnerable communities throughout the world to claim that it's theirs. I work with the NGO 25% of my time. Part of the other 75%, we engage with corporations around issues on human rights, environmental rights, human trafficking, telling companies they can't go in and take water from vulnerable communities. Water's a God-given right. It is a human right. It's not a governmental right or a corporate right. And speaking of the 25% of my time, it's one of the greatest challenges of my work at the UN is that I don't feel very effective. It's very limiting. Brother Steve O'Neill, which I'll get into the history, he was there 100% of his time. And 25%, it's good. It's good to have some voice than no voice, but it's very difficult. And I express that to our NGO falls under the GA in Rome and our Marianist province here in St. Louis, the States. So, and I expressed that to both of them, and they said, yeah, we don't have personnel at this time to give any more. We can't afford to pay a layperson anymore, or can't afford to bump up your time, which I totally understand, because there's a lot of other things to tend to. So it is difficult, but again, it's better to have some voice than no voice. Yes.
Is the NGO involved in all the
So it's more of our province. I mean, I wear multiple hats, right? The Dakota pipeline is actually more of my ICCR hat, which is that corporate social responsibility I was just mentioning. We are founding members of the Interfaith Center of Corporate Responsibility. It's a nonprofit based in New York, but we do work internationally. There are 300 faith-based members with over $3 billion in combined assets, I want to say. It might even be higher. We have a lot of money. Money speaks to power, right? So we basically strategically buy shares in certain corporations to have a voice at that table. And we actually go into corporate dialogues, to boardrooms, and talk to different people. We've been talking to banks, especially with ICCR and the Dakota pipeline, to threatening to divest our stocks and to put healthy pressure on them to do the right thing. So yes, so that's it's more of a national focus than a NGO focus, but for sure there are definitely NGO voices at that table. Yeah. So yes, no, thank you. It's such an important issue, and we thought we made progress. Well, we thought we made progress on so many things, and now there's just so much being retracted. We worked so hard on the Paris Climate Agreement, and now our administration is threatening to pull out of it, and it's just heartbreaking with all of the work that went into that. And not only the work, but it's the right thing to do. Yes, Mara.
I was going to ask you the success rate. What you do with corporations.
Yes, Mike, the question is, what was the success rate with the corporations that we do? I would say my experience has been, and that's about 10% of my role, my experience has been 50-50. Our ICCR colleagues, they refer to me as the good luck charm, because I have some crazy luck going into corporate meetings. The first meeting I went to was with Monsanto, world's largest agricultural company, and we made an ask for them to reduce their water usage. We just asked them to reduce water usage because they were wasting they have the money to do drip irrigation and to recycle water, and they weren't doing it. Well, leaving that meeting, they made a commitment to reduce their water usage 25% by 2020, which saves a ton of water especially for the local communities in water-stressed areas that they say serve, but at times manipulate and destroy. So we hold them to task on that. And I left the meeting like, oh, all meetings go that well, right? And they're like, no, like, and at that same meeting, they implemented a governing board for sustainability. And everyone from HR to the admins, the VPs, everyone down to maintenance, like not down, but that was on their org level. Everyone's important, but on their org chart, everyone from, the administrators and the board and everyone on the ground, they were all being held accountable for recycling, composting. They put in this infrastructure that they didn't have to do. Now, is Monsanto far from the perfect company? Yes. But they have made some changes, and Hugh Grant, the CEO of Monsanto, credited our little bitty Midwest Coalition for Responsible Investing and called Sister Barbara's name out to thank Monsanto, to thank us for holding Monsanto and being their moral compass, and to do the right thing. Yeah, so it's hard. It's a lot of persistence, and but I would say about half and half. And things happen positively that help us continue our work. Yes.
I know a lot about Monsanto because my grandmother and they do teach the dangers of Monsanto in the colleges.
Yes.
But then there are organizations that I can't recall what they are, social justice organizations that are saying they're fighting Monsanto, and would you do a pledge or would you send Sonic? Does that help you?
Yes. Mike, the question was, does it help when people sign pledges or, fight against Monsanto? And I, preferred language oppose, like, I don't know. But I think being militaristic in our response isn't always helpful either. But actually, dinner with Emily Monday night, she was saying, like, wait, you sat down with Monsanto? She couldn't believe it. She said, oh my gosh, I sign all these petitions. I have so much anger. But she said, just to know that people are talking to them and that they're human beings. They're trying to do their job, and we're just trying to hold them accountable. So yes, every angle helps. Multi-pronged approach is definitely helpful, as is in the case for most works for social justice. There's typically not just one answer or approach. Yeah, great question. You all it's good, advanced.
Yes.
You're saving me a lot of bullet points. So because I'm only I'll speak from the NGO. Yeah, Mike, the question was volunteers, and are there opportunities to volunteer? Not so much in the corporate dialogues per se. If there was interest, we could talk, but there would be a level of commitment as far as affiliate membership and being trained, taking time to be trained and whatnot. With the NGO, it's because I'm only 25%, it's very limiting to, and it's a lot of meetings. The volunteer aspect, it's a small window. Tours and visits are encouraged. Linda and Linda have both come. Linda's even come to a run meeting. We have a Religious at the UN group that meets once a month. All 40 Catholic NGOs get together. We're peer support for one another. We talk about challenges, ways, strategizing approaches, but we also work together on many different issues. There are also other faith-based groups who I work with. The Women's Jewish Federation, they're one of the most active in human trafficking. The Baha'i group, we meet at their offices a lot for different meetings. Yeah, and I would say 90% of our meetings are outside the UN building because of high security levels and whatnot. This here is a UN badge for NGO. And if there was room to put all your pictures and every other picture, obviously to everyone from the Marianist family, I would. But there isn't. But to represent everyone and all of our issues, 25%, it's difficult. So I would say if you want to come for a visit, if there is an issue that you are passionate about and issue specific, we could talk for sure. But as far as, again, it would be time intensive to train and to get involved, but that's not to say it's not impossible. But there aren't a ton of open volunteer possibilities right now just because of the limited scope. However, that's not to say we couldn't get creative either.
Yeah,
Yes.
one of the creative ways, like something you might be able to delegate to a community, like our Northeast Council or something.
Yeah.
If there's a particular thing, an issue that's coming up that we can help in whatever way. You know, if you just email us and we can get the word out to the communities and then they can respond.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, absolutely. So, and I know I can do a better job with that, especially with sign-ons I get. We do a lot internally with notes to the provincial council, but that's just the brothers and some others. But there's so much internal to the UN that happens.
Yeah.
And again, if I were full-time, I would love to have 2 interns and, you know, we could really rock stuff out. But being quarter time, it's difficult. I have had 2 interns who've been helpful, and I have pictures of them. I'll get to them in a couple slides. But yes, if there are things that come up, absolutely. It's just, there's so much that happens in New York alone. But again, not impossible. Not impossible. Jesse.
So I know I'm embarrassed to say this, but I have never participated in my life. But I feel compelled as I journey forward to really become more of a quote-unquote professor.
Mm-hmm.
Have you encountered that experience in your work? If so, way to mobilize us, people, or us that are coming up?
Mm-hmm. Mike, did you hear that around protests? So Jesse, Brother Jesse asked about, have I been involved with protests and is there a way for us to mobilize in the future? I have the climate march. It's part of the, trying to think what else.
Is that
Yes, it was actually the September leading up to Paris. Was that 2015? Yes, yes. I think, yeah, we can be more coordinated in our efforts. Some marches don't always reflect, might conflict with some of our Catholic values per se. So that's another challenge of the NGO I wanted to talk about. But yes, Jesse, I'm all for it and have experienced it. It's been positive. Most of them are very well organized. Oh, immigration as well in New York too. Being closer to New York, working out of Philly and being in there about once a week or 2 days a week, twice a month, depending on other things, has definitely made things. Syrian refugees too. I have a colleague, she works in the multi-faith. Yeah. So I think, yeah, let's do it. If there's an issue or one coming up that you want to rally the troop, I will definitely help. Yeah, some of them are not organized so well and happen last minute, and it's hard to get the word out. But
besides what Brian's suggesting, there's a lot of local organizing going on right now, and Terry's very familiar with that. Yeah, the Terry. Can you come up here so he doesn't have to repeat? Just so that it gets on there.
Terry's coming up to talk about Baltimore, Mike. Too.
Thank you.
If you stand right next to that. Yep.
So I do a lot of, that's pretty much all I do is social justice work here in Philadelphia, and I'm part of a national network. So we are meeting with people from all across the country, and so I know Baltimore actually has an interfaith organization that's working on eradicating poverty and housing issues locally. So there are a lot of interfaith organizations in your different communities that work on these bigger issues on a more local stance. And if anyone wants kind of where you can go look to see if you can find them for your community, just at me, I'm here.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. And then just locally, I'm on like about 6 different emails that I get information about, you know, a protest. There's a protest today at our local representative, Pat Meehan's office. I've attended a few of those. In Philadelphia, there's always something going on. And I get emails all the time. So what I was thinking through the Office of Education, if we feed that, you know, those emails to Joanne and Steve, and the ones, the specific email addresses, you know, of Philadelphia area and Baltimore area, then we can get it out to the Northeast Council so you can attend as you feel called.
And I can feed stuff too, Linda, and then Rich.
So often these protests are also part of international organizations. For instance, in Elizabeth, we have Make the Road New Jersey, but there's also Make the Road New York, and I'm sure there's a Make the Road New York international organization, Make the Road, and they're really honing in on the issue of immigration issues, not only the undocumented, you know, persecuted right now, but also the issue of detention. So
Yes.
there's a lot going on.
A lot locally too, Mike, if you didn't hear that. Yes. Yep. And that national, statewide immigration and a lot going on to get involved with. And I'll do a better job to feed stuff in through the council and education. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Rich.
I've had just a little bit of experience in this marching stuff, protesting. And I feel that one that I'm in right now, for 40 days in Baltimore, is protest. You know, it's pro-life. Pro-life is also, in my mind, under justice.
Yes.
You know, so
yes.
I feel and doing it really does get into your gut.
Yes, that was the other one I was thinking of in DC, the March for Life. Yeah, and we've been coordinating Marianist groups too to get together in DC, schools, and mainly from out of state, have chimed in to say, yeah, we want to get together and collaborate. So yeah, but yeah, if you ever want any advice or anything, I'm not a protest expert by any means. I know Linda has some experience, and you know, just Terry, yeah. And that community organizing, that came up at Change Makers a lot. Like as a Marianist family, you know, can we look at community organizing more as a model to make systemic change?
I'd just like to note that, you know, having a protest is I am not a professional protester by any means, but having a protest is like someone said to me, I went to the Women's March, and I had the soul sign that said, please, you know, affordable housing. But that was just the opening salvo, so to speak, because we all went home and each locality took on different issues, women's issues, equal pay, you know, human trafficking, domestic violence, education. So it wasn't, you know, that's just like a lot of people said, well, that was, you know, that was real nice. I hope you had fun. I said, oh no, that was the beginning.
Yes.
You know, now we have to do the work, and people are doing the work.
Yeah.
So we need to understand it's not just about the protest, but it's about all the work that goes before and after that continues. That's, you know, that's just to show people that we mean business of what we're talking about. And maybe if we stop traffic, maybe we have to get to the point we have to stop traffic or do some kind of civil disobedience. That's only a card in the deck, and you don't whip that card out until there's things have come to a certain point. So it's like a part of the whole process. So, you know, the fact that you may never have been to a protest doesn't speak for or against anything, because you've probably done a lot of other work to promote social justice that's probably even more important, you know, because that's the work. Yeah, so anyhow, that's my
Yeah,
thing.
thank you. I want to steer back to the NGO, if that's okay, just looking at time. All of it's related and connected, and I could talk about any or all these issues. for any period of time. I just wanted to give you some context that our NGO history goes back a little ways. 1996, there was a general chapter Partners in Hope meeting where the brothers felt that materialism and extravagant lifestyles of the minority of our world were depriving many the necessities of life. And then the brothers decided that the World Council, all 4 branches, right, working together, should look into establishing a Marianist NGO at the UN. It was like the Catholic trend in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the Marianists jumped right on it. And brother Steve O'Neill, he took a series of action to help prepare. In 2001, he attended a conference on Catholic NGOs. 2002, he moved to New York to take a closer look at what NGOs were doing and what we could add to the existing structure. And in 2003, he worked across the street and walked to the UN as an intern at the International Catholic Organization Center. And as Joanne asked, we have about 40 Catholic NGOs today. So that's a little bit of the history. And Steve's issues were different than the issues we're working on today, just slightly. When the Leadership Council of the SMs met in February 2004, the mandate for the new NGO was set, and the primary focus was around youth and children. And in 2006, that's when we received our official status with the DPI, which is the Department of Public Information. And brother Steve became the first NGO rep, and he stayed until 2013. He was there really 11 years in total. And that's when I had transitioned. So part of the 25% quarter time challenge, lack of effectiveness, this is the UN structure, the whole thing. We are under the Secretariat and this little DPI, which is Department of Public Information. That's what our Marianist International NGO falls under. We're, for lack of better analogy, we're kind of, low on the food chain? Yeah. Kind of like bottom feeders or whatever. I don't know, I'm not a scientist or in that world. But yeah, we're not part of the General Assembly or the Security Council, which, you know, maintaining world peace hopefully is happening there. Some of our colleague NGOs have ECOSOC status, which is the Economic and Social Council. They get into some more of the higher level meetings that we can get into. Steve was applying for ECOSOC, he told me, but then when he was leaving, he didn't continue the application. And it takes like at least a year to reapply again, and it takes really someone at least half-time, if not full-time, to get the status. So unfortunately, we couldn't get it now, but at the same time, we're maintaining our quarter-time status. So it's a huge system, as you may already know or can imagine. These are the current UN Global Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of them. Does anyone remember how many there were? The Millennium Development Goals, how many there were? Close, lower? 8, there were 8. Yeah, and when this came out, a lot of us were like, 17? Oh my gosh, but they were trying to be more specific with goals and targets and achieving them, where some of the others they felt were too broad. So, what does a day-to-day kind of look like? Well, every day looks different, like most of our jobs. We work in a lot of committees, it's a lot of meetings. NGO committees are generally divided into 4 task forces, writers and gleaners, and really research is part of that. And advocacy, prepare talking points for meetings with state delegates, member representatives. Side events, there's a lot of side events on human trafficking, climate, every issue you can imagine. The CSW is coming up, which is the Conference on the Status of Women. That happens annually. It's such an exciting event at the UN. There are thousands that come in internationally, nationally to attend that with a lot of great side events. Gender equality is one of the issues our most recent intern, Katie, was working on. And then also grassroots outreach. Yes, self-explanatory. Our intern, Adam, worked on this beforehand. So sorry, I forgot to remove that question mark. So yeah, so we reach out to different areas of the world regarding different issues. We're basically lobbyists in a lot of ways. Most member representatives don't want to talk to NGOs. They just don't have time for us. And again, we're kind of lower on the food chain. There's also certain countries who are warmer to our reception, but then there are others, say dictator-like countries, who won't have a meeting with us at all. We'll have to walk in with them at a meeting or talk to them during a meeting, even during a break, or be polite and walk out with them to kind of ask a question, are you aware of this issue? The NGOs and the DPI, Department of Public Information, we're supposed to represent civil society. So we help bring the needs of our area countries to the UN. That's how it's supposed to work. That's an ideal situation, but it's very difficult to, communicate that at all times. So these are the committees that Steve was on. He was there full-time, 100%, and he also helped, he did ICCR, the socially responsible investing as well. And he was so well-loved at the UN, still is. People ask about him all the time. And 11 years is a long time. The average is 3 to 5 years for any religious to be there. So he really made a mark and then some. So he was focused on social development, financing for development. I went to 2 meetings and I was like, Steve, that is so above my head. He's like, yeah, I'm a numbers guy and I really like to get into that, and I am not. I'm fine with doing budgets and stuff, but he's like, no, you're not gonna be able to tackle 6 like I did with your time, so I would just focus on 3. He was also involved with the human trafficking, family education, and international migration. There are so many Catholic NGOs focused on migration that we decided, they're all important issues, right? But we decided not to focus on that for now because there were so many Catholic NGOs working on that. And this was the transition, as I said, at the end of 2013. And wow, that's a really big picture. Thanks, Adam. So I shadowed Steve for a couple months, and then, honored to and humbled to serve as the rep since 2014. Oh, and I did express that challenge of 25% to the general administration in Rome and St. Louis recently. That was the only challenge in my chapter report that I just, presented. That was presented last month to all the brothers. And the chapter was last weekend? Anyway, and both responded, no, 25% is fine. Like what you're doing is fine. And we want to put out more resources to communities, but they recognize they just don't have the personnel or means to up that percentage at any time. So, and I get it, it's a challenge. And again, I think some voice is better than no voice at all. But, and the colleagues we work with are so understanding. They're like, we get it. I don't take a lead on many issues. I'll occasionally chair meetings. Like they get that, the other work is intense as well. And travel schedule is, unpredictable at times. So they're very forgiving and understanding. So the interns under this current tenure, Adam Braun, the College of New Jersey, he did a semester from campus. He was 12 to 15 hours a week. So he revised a lot of our foundational stuff, some PowerPoints, presentations, some of our resources. Katie Brossert, that's her at the UN as part of her orientation. She flew herself out and her mom ended up coming. She's like, no, I want to do my orientation on site. She's a student at UD. Also the niece of Brian Halderman, for those of you that know Brian. She's a Governor's Island kid, part of the Marianist retreat programs there since she was little. And she's now just still has one more resource to forward on, to complete on human trafficking, which we plan to get out to the communities. So Yes, Joanne.
You said that Steve focused on 6 issues,
Mm-hmm.
and you focused on 3. What are those 3 issues? Are you coming up with?
Yeah, no, and it was actually earlier.
Oh, okay.
We got into, yeah,
see.
all the other, yep,
Okay.
eradication of poverty, human trafficking, and human right to water. So, and yeah, here they are again. So week to week, again, it's a lot of meetings. Run only meets once a month, which is great and manageable. Committees, briefings, side events. The DPI, it's actually a great organization within the UN. They have a resource and visitor center. I'm not sure if I took you there or if it was open then, but it's a great place for resources, materials, also to hang out, conference room. Oh, and we got rid of our office in New York when Steve left. Well, Steve left and we left our office in June in New York because it was a lot of rent. We saved a lot of money by just morphing into a mobile office. So we don't have physical office space in New York. It's just mobile, out of here in Philly and out of my phone and sometimes out of my car and wherever. So, and colleagues there, they let us use meeting space all the time if we're not using theirs to begin with. So, yes. No, we don't. Katie, there was possibility of her to continue again, but didn't. So we were open to one for the fall, but not one this semester because she was, yeah. And we haven't, it's all been word of mouth, which has been good. Adam was good, but he was 12 hours a week and it was a lot of work to keep him, maintained and occupied. He was great. He also did a lot of Marianist formation. He didn't know anything about the Marianists. He's a former youth ministry student. When I was at his parish, he was like in 2nd grade when I was there in New Jersey from 2000 to 2003.
Mike, in your role, as chair of the Marianist Lay communities in North America, I think that we need to coordinate more with this office. I think, like, even the possibility of recruiting, getting the word out, and then, the resources that we talked about earlier for protesting and all. And, like when these reports and resources come up, because Brian, only has 25% time, but if he had somebody to work with him that can help, like, get the resources to MLC-NA and, get the word out to the communities, we need to work on that. I think that's something that we as Marianist family need to pay some more attention to, and what maybe through the Office of Education, the Northeast Marianist Family Council can help spur some of that and work with you. Okay?
That sounds like a plan.
All right.
Yeah, and just tying in with that real quick, Brian, what
Yes.
how do you connect in with the Marianist Social Justice Collaborative in terms of finding resources and so forth?
Yeah, so Mike asked, how am I connected to Marianist Social Justice Collaborative, MSJC, with resources? Jim Boat and I, we talk at least every other week, sometimes a couple times a day. We're very well connected, and I serve on the coordinating, their executive committee and the steering committee. And actually, the official province liaise to MSJC and the council. So we're very closely connected. We were more closely connected with the NGO and MSJC when they had a global economic justice team when I first started, but unfortunately, leadership on MSJC side waned and they discerned to end that issue team, which I was bummed about because it would have been a natural bridge. But, Jim Boat's good. He's like, we don't, it's not worth our energy to try to keep the issue team alive if volunteers can't uphold it or aren't interested in it anymore. So some of those members are still involved in other issue teams. But so we do work on some things together when it's applicable. Yes, Jesse. 1,700.
What percentage of those are religious?
Well, 40 Catholic, that's a really great question, Jess. I would say, if I had to guess, I would say about 150. Yeah. I would say 100 to 150. Yeah. Quakers, some have multiple NGOs that are faith-based. And also internationally, NGOs mean like nonprofit, like what we would call nonprofit. A lot of international organizations refer to themselves as NGOs. Yeah, but that's a great question. Speaking of NGOs, I want to recommend a book to you, and it's actually on your document, which, Mike, I'll email you these documents. So there's a list of resources. Sorry, the toner went nuts a little on this one. First world problems, right? But at the bottom, it is good for us to be here. Catholic Religious Institutes as NGOs at the UN. So this book came from just questions from province leadership, religious order members who were like, why should we be at the UN? What's the purpose? Why are we there? Well, this book has personal reflections from Catholic colleagues who are at the NGO and who, most of them are still serving today. Some have transitioned off, but it's a really great book. I just gave a copy to Stan as well. And if anyone else wants a copy, I'm sure I can get one for you. But I just want to read this snippet from Mary Margaret Mooney. She's a presentation of the Blessed Virgin Mary, PVVM. And she writes on her experience at the UN being an NGO. We have learned to hold fast to principles, to rejoice in small achievements, to continue speaking and praying when confronted with injustices that seem immutable, to cling to hope that the kingdom is here but not yet, and to be grounded in the realism expressed by the second Secretary General of the UN, who said, the UN wasn't created to take humanity into paradise, but rather to save humanity from hell. The UN wasn't created to take humanity into paradise, rather to save humanity from hell. With the universe of issues, problems, interests, and crisis, it is sometimes a challenge to maintain focus on selected issues. It is also a challenge to manage two-way communications with the people on the ground, civil society, that bear the wounds of the UN, that they strive to bind up, and who make real the lofty words of UN documents. That dichotomy is really difficult. She also says it's a challenge not only to be aware that things move slowly at the UN, but also to accept that results cannot be expected overnight. And those two paragraphs for me sum up so much of my experience. When we reduced to 25%, I remember a couple sisters like, oh, Brian, that's right, we're here full time, and we feel like we barely make 25% movement on any given week. It's just such a huge structure. And like any large human organization, it's bureaucratic and political, and it's can be difficult. One thing I wanted to share as a resource moving forward. Oh, did it not? Well, we're gearing up on time anyway, but it's on your the first website listed, UN.org Sustainable Development Goals. Let's see if it'll come up. It's a great interactive website. Say if you as a community wanted to focus even on one goal, or individually, or not, we use this all the time. For no poverty, each goal has a different website that's personalized to the goal. So goal 1 for SDG by 2030 is to end poverty in all its forms everywhere. And it gives synopsis, facts and figures. The goal 1 targets, we work with those targets to ensure that the goals are being met. So NGOs are really the accountability body. We're also a moral compass for the UN. And those goals and targets are so important, and we actually helped write them. The UN asks the NGOs to help write reasonable goals and targets, because one complaint from the Millennium Development Goals, the 8 I mentioned earlier, you know, that the goals weren't specific enough, or some were too fluffy or lofty. So these goals hopefully are more attainable and achievable, but will make the difference. And then also there's stories and videos to each goal. And then there's a whole bunch of links too. And one thing I love is a simple one-pager front and back on each goal. So no poverty, why it matters, statistics. So what can I do about it? Yeah, and there's one for each goal on that. So that's just something for you. Yeah, and there's other resources too. So with that,
If this group wanted to do a tour with you, or can you send me dates that will work for you, and then we'll get a
yeah, let's people here or throughout the
throughout the council. But I was saying
Sure.
that, like,
Yeah.
some people here, like, from it.
Yeah, anyone else interested? Are weekends better, weekdays?
Listen, I'm retired.
It depends. Okay, I will. I'll send out,
Great.
yep, tour dates. Like we're all going on tour. The Holy See mission is also listed as a resource. This last page really, and this was done by request, people ask, how is the UN and the church's mission aligned? The church, you know, the Holy See mission, they have a permanent observer. Bishop Auza from the Philippines, we collaborate with them on a lot of things. And, you know, there are some issues we don't get involved with. I just had a Marianist priest ask about NGO and what about Amnesty International, because they changed their stance on abortion and how it's affecting our university. So it's entering into dialogues with that, but Amnesty, their NGO, they sent me their policy statement, and it's having these dialogues, yeah, and we're helping each other learn about different issues. So yeah, it's, yeah. And then here's some of the other, you know, Catholic Church's role in the UN and how we help move things forward. And again, Pope Francis, I was blessed to win the NGO lottery and got to hear him speak at the UN. I mean, it was amazing, but talk about mission and values aligning in the same place. It was really, I think he helped remind the UN what we're all about. And the Declaration for Human Rights and those 30, I love that image because it's just, again, a reminder of what the UN's all about. And it's totally in sync with Catholic social teaching and the humanity and dignity of every human person. So, yeah, Jess?
You can explicitly say this, but I hear you saying that you believe we want a person represented at the UN that's one of us.
Ideally, yes.
So I'm thinking, having this come from the chapter, so that's that. Look for the proposal. I'd be happy to be part of that. Sign it for the proposal and come at it again.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
Leave it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe the
So, and I mean, all they can say is no again.
Right.
We can say no again, but at least I think another shot.
Yeah.
yeah.
It is, because I'm just scratching the surface, even with, I mean, I'm, you know, trying to coordinate these efforts with our schools internationally, and Mike McAward at the GA, that's who I report to. He's been so helpful and whatnot, but it's just barely scratching the surface. The capacity we have to get the word out and involve more Marianists internationally, there's so much capacity that we're not even tapping yet. Yeah.
I'm just going to put, you know, Mike, you're part of the Marianist lay communities in North America. I mean, I know this is a religious thing, an SM thing, but maybe, you know, we can also advocate the whole Marianist family, you know, in terms of the importance of this, especially under current, you know, our new current administration, and how we might be stepping back a few steps from issues of social justice moving forward. So I would just like to say, how can we as an entire Marianist family support this SM effort? I just wanted to say.
Yeah, and I don't mind. I think that'll be helpful communicating with Jesse, with Mike, with Linda, with anyone, you know, here. There's a very exciting thing happening right now. We got a feasibility study grant from the Hilton Foundation. They are helping us research a potential larger capacity building grant to bolster the Catholic NGOs at the UN, but how can we also better coordinate programs, communication, everything at the ground level as well. They recognized religious orders are limited with funds and personnel, and they are hoping to help us increase our capacity potentially big time. So that's an exciting possibility as well. So yeah. And I know time-wise, I could talk more. I have some other stuff, but I don't want to other stuff that is on your papers and could be, but I'm good if y'all are good is what I'm trying to say.
All right, any final questions or comments?
How long are you going to be around today?
Till I do have to leave at 1, so till you PM.
You're
And I
staying for
didn't-
cocktails?
I didn't want to, intrude on business meetings and stuff, but I do have to leave after lunch, or I also don't have to stay for lunch too, but yeah, I'll be around.
So on behalf of the Northeast Marianist Family Council, we want to thank Brian for this excellent presentation.
Oh, thank you all. I remain a resource, however.
This is energizing, motivating, and I feel like some great things are going to come moving forward, so thank you again, Brian.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We love you and support you in your work and pray for you.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye,
All
Mike.
right, thank you. I will post the recording
So
as
we
soon
have
as
this
it's finished.
recording now, so we can, people are just,
Yeah.
we want to hear this excellent presentation. It's going to be available.